Good afternoon, everyone. At the outset, I would like to thank the organizers for providing me with this opportunity to present at this session. So today I will be discussing perforations in DALC, what are the pre-op risk factors, the intraoperative management, and the postoperative considerations in the follow-up of such cases. So coming to the preoperative factors, the incidence of perforation in DALC ranges from 1 to 50% of cases. And although perforation can occur in any step of DALC or in any case of DALC, several studies have looked into identifying those cases where the risk is higher. So in the study by Micheletto et al., corneas with advanced ectasias and thickness less than 250 microns were considered to be at a higher risk of perforation. And a similar finding was noted in the study by Huang et al. And they also added that patients with corneal scars, especially deeper scars, are also more prone to perforations. Now, before we discuss the management of such perforations, let us have a brief look at the type of perforations that can occur. So microperforations are those that measure around 0.5 to 1 millimeter and are associated with a very stable anterior chamber, whereas macroperforations are larger than 1 millimeter and have an unstable anterior chamber. Usually, unless the microperforation extends, in all these cases, the DALC can be completed, whereas in macroperforations, it depends upon the stability of the AC. So a few of these cases can get converted to PK. Fortunately, microperforations are far more common, and the overall rate of conversion of DALC to PK in such cases ranges from 1 to 18%. So when it comes to the type of technique that is employed, the incidence of perforation is higher in manual dissection when compared to cases with a big bubble, and the rate of perforation is similar between the two different types of bubbles. However, in cases with a type 1 bubble, the posterior wall is stronger and has more elastic fibers. And so when perforations do occur, they are less likely to extend with further manipulation. A perforation can occur in any step of the surgery, right from the trephination up to the suturing. However, the most common step where the perforation can occur is during the dissection of the posterior stromal layers. Let us now see how to handle the perforations during each of these cases. So if the perforation occurs during trephination and if it is less than 2 clock hours, the open area can be sutured and manual dissection can be attempted. So in an interesting case described by Ghaffari et al., there was a perforation during trephination and they used a stromal patch graft to seal the same. So here what they did was a small stromal patch was taken from the patient's anterior stromal lenticule and it was secured after creating a small pocket in the area of the trephination just above the perforation. So this area of the stromal patch graft was secured with a suture and this area was secured with fibrin glue after sealing it. And then the donor lenticule was sutured in place. So what is important here is that to ensure that the new stromal tissue straddles the area of perforation to provide a complete seal. Perforations that occur during injection of air can be managed either with an air tamponade or by leaving behind some residual stroma. So here in this case, attempts have been made to form a big bubble. And during this attempt where air is being injected, we can see it is escaping into the anterior chamber. The bubbles are freely mobile. So in the same tract where the cannula was placed, an iris depositor is being inserted and manual dissection is being carried out. And then the 4 leaflets of the posterior stroma will be created using the same iris depositor and a blade, and they will be individually excised. At the end of this, again, the donor stroma is sutured in place with nylon sutures. Our next patient was a case of advanced keratoconus in the left eye, and he was intolerant to rigid contact lenses. So here the surgeon is injecting air with a 29 gauge needle. Again, we can see that the air is escaping into the anterior chamber. So what is different in this case is, in the previous case, the dissection was done first and then the leaflets were created. But here first the leaflets are being created and then stepwise dissection of each quadrant is being carried out. So this is being done in 2 phases. So now the first layer of the stroma is being removed. And to reach a deeper plane of the stroma, again, another level of dissection is being carried out. So during this dissection, as we can see this, as the surgeon progresses circumferentially, And as the last bit of stroma is being excised, the perforation that was there extends. So the remaining stroma is excised, leaving behind a small bit of residual stroma over here. Air is being injected, and we can see that the bubble is fairly stable with the residual stroma in place. And then the donor stroma is sutured with nylon sutures. So as I previously mentioned, manual dissection or dissection of the posterior stromal layers, this is the step where perforation most commonly occurs. And again, it can be managed either with an air tamponade or by leaving behind residual stroma. So here the anterior stromal cap has already been removed and a big bubble could not be achieved. So the surgeon is carrying out manual dissection of the posterior stromal layers. So again, once the dissection is carried out, the leaflets are being cut. And once again, a deeper level, the surgeon tries to reach a deeper level of the posterior stroma. And during this step, we can see here, a small perforation will be noted. So since the perforation was very small and air bubble was injected and the anterior chamber was fairly stable after that, and the donor stroma was sutured, and at the end of the surgery, an air tamponade was left in situ. So our next case is a patient with macular dystrophy who underwent DALK in the right eye. So here again, a big bubble was achieved and the superficial layers of the stroma are excised. So during the excision of the first leaflet, there was suspicion of a perforation. So air is being injected into the anterior stroma. Here we can see the air is escaping the AC. So here the dissection is being carried out away from the area of perforation, and a little bit of residual stroma is again being left behind. Again, I would like to stress that whenever there's a perforation, the rest of the stromal dissection has to be done before we approach the area where the perforation is present. So again, after this, the anterior chamber is stable and the surgery is completed. So this is our last case. Here again, the patient had macular dystrophy and a DALK was being carried out. 2 leaflets have already been excised. And when the other half of the corneal stroma, where dissection is being excision is being attempted, we can see over here that there is a perforation. So air is being injected and then the rest of the dissection is carried out. So after this dissection is carried out, stability of the anterior chamber is again checked with air. So it is not very stable, and so fibrin glue is placed. And once the fibrin glue is placed, the AC is relatively more stable, and then the donor lenticule is sutured in place. So the last step where perforation can occur is during suturing. So this is more common in type 2 bubbles where only the DM is left behind. And if perforation is small, the rest of the suturing can be completed with an air tamponade. Fibrin glue can also be used if the rest of the pre-descemet layer is intact. So moving on to the last section, post-op DM detachments and endothelial cell loss of endothelial cell density is the most common complication seen in these patients. Rarely we can also see interface scarring or scarring along the edges of the tear as is seen here. So several studies, they all say that these complications are more common in patients with macroperforations. This was the same patient in whom fibrin glue had been used. We can see there's a DMD, and 1 week later, the patient underwent descemetopexy. So to summarize, DALK perforations are more common in cases where a big bubble is not achieved. Dissection of posterior stromal layers is the most common step where a perforation occurs, and being extra careful and meticulous will help prevent this complication. If despite all care, a perforation does occur, it can be managed with an air tamponade, leaving behind residual stroma or by using fibrin. And DM detachment and decreased endothelial cell counts can occur as a post-op sequelae and must be kept in mind during the follow-up of these cases. I would like to thank my teachers and my colleagues for sharing